actually, unfortunately, but because of the laws of nature. The laws of nature forbid us to be immortal. Immortality is ruled out by the laws of physics. But also, actually, what's interesting about if you look at the basic physics of the universe, going from the Big Bang to where we are today, then the physics is driven by the fact that the universe began in an extremely ordered state. So it was a very highly ordered system. And it is tending towards a more disordered system at the moment. And that's called the second law of thermodynamics. And it's that basic common sense thing that things go to shit. Right? Basically, it's the second law of thermodynamics. What we strongly suspect, and I would say no, is that in that process of going from order to disorder, complexity emerges naturally for a brief period of time. So it's a natural part of the evolution of the universe that you get a period in time when there's complexity in the universe. So stars and planets and galaxies and life and civilizations. But they exist because the universe is decaying, not in spite of the fact the universe is decaying. So our existence in that sort of picture is necessarily finite and necessarily time limited. And it is a remarkable thing that complexity has got so far that there are things in the universe that can think and feel and explore it. And I think that is the answer. If you want an answer to the meaning of it all, it's that you are part of the universe. Because of the way the laws of nature work, you are allowed to exist, but you're allowed to exist for a temporary, for a small amount of time in a possibly infinite universe.
One of the biggest mind-blowing moments, I think, of my limited comprehension of what it means to be a living being was when I found out that carbon and all the stuff that makes us has to come out of a dying star.
Yeah.
Like that alone, that there's this very strange cycle of these enormous fireballs that forge the material that makes Brian Cox.
Yeah.
Like what? That one alone, that there is some strange loop of biological life that comes from stars, which is like the most elemental thing that we can observe. We see these things in the sky. We see the sun in the sky. It's this all-powerful ball of fire, and that is where the building blocks for a person.
And they will be from the carbon atoms in our body. You're right, they all got made in stars because there was just none of it at the Big Bang. There's only hydrogen and helium, tiny bit of lithium to be precise, but nothing else. And so it was all made in stars. And it's probably from different stars. You know, the atoms in your body, they're not all from one star that cooked it and then died. There'll be a mixture of stuff from many stars in your body now. And I agree with you. What more do you want? You know, when I see people who go, I want more than that. I want more. You know, there must be more to it. What do you mean? The ingredients in our bodies were assembled in the hearts of long dead stars over billions of years, and have assembled themselves spontaneously into temporary structures that can think and feel and explore. And then those structures will decay away again at some point, and in a very far future there'll be no structures left. So there we are. We exist in this observe this magnificent universe. Why do you want any more?
Well, it's I think I think a lot of people aren't aware of all the information, right? And then I think on top of it, for some people, it's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
This concept of 13.8 billion years of everything to get to this point that we're at right now, it's so overwhelming that they want to simplify it. Yeah. They want to put it into some sort of a fable structure, something that's very common and similar and familiar.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that's the journey that we go on. The real treasure, I think, is in that journey of trying to face the incomprehensible.
Yes.
It's in that realization that it's almost impossible to believe that we exist. Right?
Yes, right.
But that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And I think That's what I think you miss out. I think if you decide to simplify it because you don't want to face that, you don't want to face the infinity that's out there in front of us, and you don't want to face those stories that you look at your finger and its ingredients was cooked in multiple stars over billions of years. That's to me a joyous and powerful thing.
Yes.
And I think you're missing out if you don't want to face that.
Well, I think the distribution of information has changed so radically over the last couple hundred years, in particular over the last 20, that you're seeing trends now where more people are inclined to abandon a lot of, even if you remain religious or you keep a thought or a belief in a higher power, people are more inclined to entertain these concepts of science and to take in the understanding of what has been observed and documented and written about among scholars and academics, and there's more people accepting that. If you look at the number of agnostic people now as opposed to 20, 30 years ago, it's rising, it's changing. And I think there's also, because of you, because of Neil deGrasse Tyson and Sean Carroll and all these other people that are public intellectuals and this kind of stuff, people like myself have a far greater understanding of this than I think people did 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. And that trend is continuing, I think, in a very good direction.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, what we should say is that science, we don't know all the answers. So we don't know where the laws of nature came from. We don't know why the universe began in the way that it did, if indeed it had a beginning. So we don't know why the Big Bang was very, very highly ordered, which is ultimately, as Sean Carroll actually, you mentioned him, often points out, and he's right, that the whole difference, the only difference between the past and the future, the so-called arrow of time, is that in the past the universe was really ordered, and it's getting more disordered. And that's that necessary state of order at the start of the universe, which is really the reason that we exist. That's the reason that the universe began in a particular form. We don't know why that is. So we will probably find out at some point, and it'll be something to do with the laws of nature. But I'm always careful. I don't want to... Science can sometimes sound arrogant, right? It can sometimes sound like it's the discipline of saying to people, well, you're not right.
Yes, yes.
And it's not the discipline of saying you're not right. It's saying this is what we found out.
Yeah.
So I like to say that it provides a framework within which, if you want to philosophize or theology, or you want to ask these deep questions about why we're here, you have to operate within that framework, because it's just an observational framework.
Yes.
So everything we've said is stuff we've discovered. It's not stuff that someone made up, right? We understand nuclear physics. We can build nuclear. So we understand the physics of stars. So we understand that the stars built the carbon and oxygen, and we know how they did it. We can see it, because as I said before, if you look far out into the universe, you're looking way back in time. And as you look back in time, you see less carbon and less oxygen. So we have a direct observation that in the earliest universe there wasn't any, because we can see it. And now we see that there is some, and we know how it is made. So I think it's important to be humble when you're talking about science. And you're not saying this is the way that it is. I mean, you are in a sense, but it's not able to answer ultimate questions at the moment. It's not able to answer even whether the universe had a beginning or not. We don't even know that. And I was asked to give a talk to some bishops about cosmology. And that was great fun. And so I went and gave them this talk. And at the end, I said, I've got some questions. So if the universe is eternal, and it might be, it might not have had a beginning. If it's eternal, what place does it belong? That's a good question.
Right.
They didn't have an answer. That's right. But I think that it might be eternal, and we might discover that. So we don't know at the moment, but we might. So I think my point is that these other human desires, it's very natural. Religion is a natural thing. You see it all across the world in all different cultures. But I think that in the 21st century, religion needs to operate within that framework. If it's going to operate, there are still great mysteries, and it is appropriate to think about what it means to be human, and I've given you my view of what it means. But I don't think the problem comes when your theology or your philosophy forces you to deny some facts, some measurement. These things are measurements. We're not saying, it's not my opinion the universe is 13.8 billion years old. We measured it. It's like having an opinion between the distance from LA to New York. You can't have an opinion on that.
Right.
We know what it is. And it's the same,
Right.
It's like, these things, the people say the Earth's flat or whatever. So it isn't, and we've measured it. So it's just stop it. But that doesn't mean you can't be spiritual and you can't be religious. I would say it doesn't mean you can't believe in God or gods. That's not ruled out by science. But
Fuck me, do you know much the taste test?
I don't smoke anymore, and I'm
For that?
sober.
And
Mhm.
I love Dawkins.
It's probably like £300.
That's pretty weird.
But he likes to call people.
Sorry, can't hear you.
And the
520.
problem with that is people go,
520.
you're an idiot. It is a natural inclination.
Just being the asshole. It's over, and you're dead to me, and we move on.
And to sort of dig
This
their
thing
heels
is
in.
dangerous.
And,
This thing's dangerous.
We don't do that. And I think that's very important. And I think that a guy like Dawkins just gets frustrated from all these years of debates with people who are uneducated or saying ridiculous things.